Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show podcast. Joining us, as always, Andrew Malcolm, the Prince of Twitter, the Regent of RedState.com, a man whose compass is so momentous that we simply have to download his wisdom every single week here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Bless you, my son.
Your compass is so momentous, which is a grave contrast with what's going on at the White House, which we'll get to in a minute, right?
Oh,
We're going to get to that. But first off, we got to talk about the Super Bowl. This was one of the best ones I think I've ever seen. It was,
I agree.
Defense in the first half, offense in the second half, a whole quarter of overtime. And both teams played really pretty well. It just did a little bit better.
Yeah. It was amazing. I have fallen off because of my team's hard times. By the way, I was delighted to see that Pittsburgh wasn't in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you noticed that. Hey, we got into the playoffs as did the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah,
we both played about as well as each other in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I tend to watch now. I love watching quarterbacks who are surgeons. Tom Brady, obviously, but Drew Brees, Joe Montana in the old days, and I just love watching Patrick Mahomes. I don't know that much about him, but he seems like a nice guy, and I love the comeback. Americans love comebacks, and they love underdogs. And I don't know how the betting would make Kansas City an underdog the way they played in recent years with Andy Reid. The guy is he's a legend. He really is. And he's got a good sense of humor, and he loves cheeseburgers. So, he's a great American, obviously. Obviously, yeah. I really enjoyed it. And I don't always watch it live. I might watch it 10 minutes behind, because then I can eliminate the commercials. But
really,
yeah, I don't. The commercials and the pre-show and all the blah 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 and the halftime.
Just because the commercials are sort of part of the experience for Super Bowl. I understand.
Okay, for you and the halftime show. I think I watched part of the Michael Jackson halftime show a long, long time ago, right? And then I said, well, this got nothing to do with football. I don't mind the high school band forming the letters of the high school, but I just 22 minutes. I don't know how those athletes. That physically that should be dangerous, but they're in such amazing shape. When you see that Travis Kelce's body, oh my God, 280 pounds of granite. I know he broke the protocol of respecting coach by demand, but he wasn't in when that play got screwed up. And he's such an intense competitor. I'm not making an excuse for him. I'm just saying,
right,
that he wanted in. Damn it, I can win it. And at the end, who made the big catch to get it down for the? I think it was for the field goal, right?
For the in regulation, for the field goal in regulation. Now, he made a huge catch down there. Yeah.
The guy is so reliable. The two of them are, and they seem. Taylor Swift doesn't bother me. I think it's kind of sweet, actually. They're multi-millionaires and so on, but nobody. They're not asking for all the attention. They give it to them because it's so fresh and appealing, given everything else that's going on.
She doesn't need it. She's not there because she needs attention. She gets attention everywhere she goes. He doesn't need it because he needs attention. He gets attention all the time.
And they both have a lot of money. So
a ton of money, and they're going to get more. So it's just kind of sweet and fun, and people just need to, relax about it a little bit.
Ease up a little. Yeah.
I got to tell you though, if you like surgical quarterbacks, you got to love Brock Purdy, who played.
Yeah, he was pretty good
yesterday. His completion percentage fell off a little bit, but a lot of that had to do with Kansas City's defense too. And he never really made a big mistake. At least I don't recall seeing a big mistake from Brock Purdy. He did a good job. I was
very level. I appreciate the guys that can handle the emotion, because my historical impression is that first-time Super Bowl teams don't win because it's just so intense. I mean, I don't think I've been in on a presidential race and presidential debates and all that stuff, and so I know a little bit about it. But what was it, 110, 15 million people watching it? That's gotta affect you. That's why almost every play at the beginning of a game is running, except for Mahomes.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a good game. It was a good game.
Yeah, it was. It was. They seemed fairly evenly matched.
Yeah.
It's just that Mahomes is, he's got magic. He can do things that others can't. And who is it? I read somewhere, I don't know if this is true or not, but some Bears fan was saying, we passed on Mahomes to trade up and get Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, but I think coming out of college, he was considered more of a traditional drop back passer than Mahomes was.
Yeah,
and so
who drafted him? The guy who drafted him was John Dorsey, who was the general manager in Kansas City. He then went to Cleveland, and he built up the talent base there.
Mm-hmm.
And now, guess where he went? Detroit. He's been in Detroit now for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that was my only regret from the Super Bowl, is I would have liked to have seen the Detroit Lions make it in there, because they had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
And they outplayed San Francisco in that first half, and then their coach kind of gave it away. The players didn't give it away so much as the coach did. But at any rate, yesterday's game, we're recording this on Monday. Yesterday's game was a lot of fun. It was the most exciting Super Bowl I've seen in a while.
Except for that one where they would have won if he'd gotten another yard. And remember, he stretched his hand. I don't remember who that was. Was it the Eagles or Atlanta or something?
The Rams? I think that was a Rams Super Bowl. Yeah, it came right down
he
to
He got tackled like on the 3 or something. That was pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah. It used to be that they were all bad, right?
Yeah.
They were all stinkers. We've gotten lucky over the last, 15, 20 years. They've all been pretty close, It's at least competitive.
Yeah.
And
so that was entertaining, but now you got to go through the desert of no football for a few months.
Yeah, I know. Well, you got the
draft. We got
the draft. You got the USFL, which is the spring league
and free agent. I tried to watch that last year, and I didn't know anybody in there, so it's hard to.
Yeah.
It's hard to follow. I mean, it's not like I know the Kansas City Chiefs, but their reputation. So it's people say, "Well, this guy had a cup of coffee with Boston and something." You go, "Oh, okay." Anyway, it was.
What we really need is one of their players to have an affair with one of Taylor Swift's backup singers.
There we go. Yeah. There's an idea. A spin-off.
Minor leagues. I'm just saying.
I know. I'm just saying. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, speaking of not ready for the major leagues, for a segue.
Here we go.
Yeah. The press, I think, may have been the hardest hit last week by Robert Hur special counsel report, because the American media has been trying for 4 years, really, and longer than that, to sell Joe Biden as the kindest, most compassionate,
Mr. Empathy. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Empathy. a sage, an eminence grise among the Democrat, foreign policy elite.
A good guy.
Yeah, a good guy, a smart guy. Oh, well, he stutters. That's the reason why he seems to have trouble finding words. He stutters, which he didn't do when he was younger, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a convenient excuse.
So then Robert Hur drops this special counsel report on Thursday of last week, which the White House knew was coming. They'd seen it, they'd reviewed it, they'd sent it back with notes asking him to redact some of this stuff, and Hur refused to do it. So they knew it was coming, and apparently they're still completely unprepared for how some of this stuff was going to come across.
Well, that's Joe Biden, right? I mean, he was unprepared for the infant food shortage, unprepared for the supply chain blockage, unprepared for the screw up that he created in Afghanistan. He's unprepared for everything. And he's late. He's late for everything, which my father always said was a sign of sloppy thinking. Yeah, I got to tell you a story. When I worked for the first George W. Bush campaign, punctuality was essential. I mean, you could get in big doo-doo if you weren't on time for things, whether it's coming to do work or at an event. And I was with, I spent a lot of time with Mrs. Bush, and we were in Council Bluffs. We had an event. Turns out in the same hall, Bill Bradley had an event that he was 3 hours late for in the winter. 3 hours. He expected people to wait for him for him to ask for the vote. We drove up to the entrance, and it was like 2 minutes early. And Bush told the Secret Service, "No, drive around the block." So we drove around the block and drove up to the door as the minute hand went up to the 12, and because that's the way she wanted to work. When we left a town like Clear Lake, Iowa, when we left events there, she, when the plane took off, I was supposed to give her a list, names and addresses of the people who had helped us at that stop. And on the way to the next stop, she would be handwriting thank you notes that would be mailed there the same day. So they were very precise. Joe Biden is not. I mean, he shows up. Well, in Brussels last year, it was like 90 minutes late for a press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the staff tries to describe it as, well, he's so empathetic with the last people he's meeting with. And, my father was right. It's just undisciplined.
But I mean, it's one thing to be undisciplined. Robert Hur's report suggests that he's non-compos mentis, right? I mean, he doesn't remember things. He's not remembering basic things. He doesn't remember when he was vice president. If you, with the transcripts of the interview with his memoirist, his ghostwriter.
And when his son died? I know when his son died.
He wasn't able to remember within several years when Bo died, when they were asking him about it.
Well, we know this when we see him. He's standing next to Lloyd Austin, and he doesn't remember his name, and he has to say something like our folks over at the Pentagon. The guy's standing right next to him. And when he was on a video conference call with the Prime Minister of Australia, he said, the leader down under. And I mean, this shouldn't have shocked the White House. I think what shocked the White House was that Hur was candid.
Well,
and again, it's candid velvet glove treatment with from the media.
Well, and I think that's what this. I don't think it really exposes Joe Biden, because voters were already concerned about Joe Biden, right? I mean, you see this in poll after poll after poll that majority of Americans say he's too old to be running for another term in office, and now a new ABC News Ipsos poll that came down over the weekend said 86% of respondents think that Joe Biden's too old, and that's including 73% of Democrats now think that Joe Biden's too old. So Americans understood this. What this really exposes to me is how the media establishment tried to cover this up for 4 years, really, because this was true during the 2019-2020 campaign as well.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden you start seeing this shift, at least somewhat, right? The New York Times suddenly runs 3 pieces talking about how Biden's too old and has to start thinking about retirement. And as we all know, if the New York Times runs a piece that doesn't produce a staff walkout, then it's an official endorsement of that.
The media. I mean, the media did the same thing with Hunter's laptop. You try to ignore it. It was hard for them to let go of the Russiagate hoax. It's very sad for someone who spent most of my professional life in that media. It was a different media at the time. They had biases, but they weren't as corrupt as now, pretending to not see something, or right? Well, it's unproven. Hunter's laptop is unverified. And no, it's verified. It's sad. It's very, very sad for the country, because we need an honest watchdog. They got constitutional protections, for Pete's sake, because being a watchdog, independent watchdog, is so important. And they're blowing it, or they have blown it, and their credibility went out the window. So a lot of them, their newspapers anyway, are dying. Did you know, I heard from a friend in LA, it now costs to get the print edition delivered to your home, the LA Times, it's now $1,000 a year.
$1,000 a year,
and $1,000 a year. It's $250 a quarter, and it's much smaller. The deadline is before the evening news on TV. So if you watch TV news at dinner, you got what's going to be in the paper in the morning. It's really sad. I worked there for 10 years, and they were good to me, very, very good to me. So
I'm at a loss to understand $1,000 a year. I mean,
well, it's like they don't want you. They want to close up the printing business. They're closing up the printing plant, the main printing plant, and they're going to do it out in the suburbs now. Well, I guess the Times does the same thing in New York. Yeah, well, but they created it. Their arrogance created it over a long time. And I have said this story before, and I'll make it quick, but in my mind, the media in the 80s and 90s was like a pharmacist. They decided back in their little room, and they're wearing the white coats, they made these sacred decisions as to what was news. And they printed it up, and then people lined up in the morning to get it handed to them, what the professionals had decided was news. And of course, the internet threw that under the bus.
Right.
But the arrogance that comes with it. I was in a meeting with national editors and copy editors at the LA Times, and there was a discussion. We had run a blog item. Now, this is early days, so this is like 2008 or 9. We had run an item that had the word boobs in the headline, and one of the national copy editors said, "Wait a minute, you mean to tell me, Andrew, that you would post a story just because you think people wanted to read it?" And I said, "You bet your sweet ass, John. How's the Sunday circulation going?" And at that point, the senior editor stepped in and said, "Well, I thought we don't have to get into that because the Sunday paper was sinking." And we were doing 4 and 5 million page views a month on our little new blog. So they missed it. And you, with Captain's Quarters and all the others, came in and revolutionize the news delivery business electronically, instantly. Make your choice. You be the editor and pick what you're going to read, and people like that.
Yeah, people like it, and again, I mean, it gets them. You know, you would think that would incentivize the media to actually focus on news that matters, right? Like, for instance, the president of the United States might be non compos mentis, right?
Yeah.
Especially
if
because
they were honest,
especially because anybody who's watching the guy can already tell that he's non compos mentis. He's getting lost. I mean, the things that you just said, he gets lost on stage. He can't complete a thought when he's speaking extemporaneously. He
even reading notes.
Yeah, even when he's reading notes, he can't complete a thought. You've got, you know, and then, of course, to make this even worse, the White House decided that they were going to pour gasoline on this fire on Thursday by sending him out there at 7:45 at night when Biden is clearly not at the top of his game, if you know what I mean. And anybody who's dealt with, you know, elderly, aging parents or family members understands that, you know, there's sort of this sort of sunset thing going on, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're better earlier, right? And so they send him out.
Yeah, he goes out and says, "I have an excellent memory," and then screws up the Mexican and the Egyptian presidents.
He puts Mexico on the border of Gaza.
Yeah,
I mean, it's exactly, it just played right into what Robert Hur was saying.
It's an SNL skit. That's what it is.
And 3 times in the previous 4 days, I think it was, or maybe it was 3 days, 4 days. Joe Biden told us a story about talking to a world leader in 2021's G7 meeting, and used two different people, both of whom were dead by 2021. Right? There was, you know, Francois Mitterrand, who died in 1996. He was dead 15 years? No, 25 years before the G7 summit in 2021. Yeah. And then Helmut Kohl, who died in 2017. And it was the same anecdote, right? He just changed the names. Yeah. It was this person came to me, and it was some sort of thing about them asking about, you know, if what the United States would do if somebody attacked, you know, if a mob attacked Parliament in London. It was supposed to be about, you know, he was trying to make it about January 6th and, you know, ultra magas and stuff like that. So he tells the same story, but attributes it first to Francois Mitterrand and then changes it to Helmut Kohl, who was the leader of a completely different country
at a different time,
and still was dead. You know, and the media had actually started to notice that, and that was just the day before the Hur report dropped. NBC News ran a big feature saying, for the 3rd time this week, Donald Trump has, you know, basically said he was talking to dead people. And I had written a post about that, right, for Thursday morning. Says, you know, NBC News, Biden sees dead people again, and the image was from The Sixth Sense, right? You know, with Haley Joel Osment and Bruce Willis, which famously had the line of Haley Joel Osment, you know, tucked up like this and going, "I see dead people."
Right.
You know, great movie, by the way, but it's not one I really want playing out in the White House. It's a bad thing.
So there's a subtle difference, I think, and that is that the media, as you say, is noticing it or allowing it to be written.
Allowing it to be written. They've noticed it. I mean, how could you not?
Exactly. No, but I mean, noticing it in publishing.
Yes.
So, but they're not. It's not condemning it. I wrote 14 months ago. I wrote a piece saying Biden is gone. Why won't anybody do anything? It's been so clear for so long, and this isn't wishful on my part. Good Lord, I know people in the military. I don't want somebody up there that can't tell the difference between countries. So I don't think we're any further along, but it would seem suicidal it's homicidal to send Biden out for a campaign and election. I mean, you want to lose. The only hope they have is that Trump immolates himself in some way, or that suddenly the public takes a conviction seriously. Doesn't seem to bother them now.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I mean, first off, a lot of the press, some of the press was being kind of honest about it, right? NBC News, even before the Hur report dropped, was approached the whole dead people, Biden sees dead people thing, at least honestly. And then also after the Hur report dropped, the reporters that were in the, I forget where the press conference was being held. I want to say it was in the
diplomatic room.
Diplomatic room. Thank you. They were challenging him and he got pissed off at them and started yelling at him. Which, an old man shaking his fist at the lectern isn't exactly.
I'm laughing, but it hurts.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's again, the White House should have just let it roll. Just,
I wrote it. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I wrote about this in the column, and it was hypothetical, but I said I could picture when the report came, of course, as you said, they knew what was going to be in it. But when the report came out and got such a huge splash, I could picture Biden saying, "Oh, damn it, I'm going out and straighten this out." And the staff going, "Oh, no, sir, we can handle it. And then he barges out and makes it worse. It's very hard to tell a president, don't do something, especially one like him who can turn on a dime and become mean.
This is your column, we are so screwed, which may be my favorite column headline of all time because it's just so applicable. It's an evergreen, I think is what we call those. It's an evergreen. We are so screwed. You almost want to say part, MCLXVII, right?
Yeah.
But we are so screwed. And I mean, James Carville, David Axelrod, and some of the other people from, the Clinton/Obama establishments were coming out and saying, this is really bad and Democrats really need to start getting a grip on just how bad this is going to look. And James Carville said the most damaging thing that can happen to a politician is to have an existing negative suspicion confirmed. And it wasn't just a suspicion, right?
Yeah.
This was everybody except the media knew that the emperor had no clothes.
Exactly, Ed. It's just, and there wasn't even a little kid saying, "No, but he's naked." There wasn't even that. It was just, "Oh, okay. Oh, he's got a nice suit on today." And look at the love that Jill has to take him by the hand. Well, I said, I tweeted, I don't know, recently that if they were treating my dad this way, this is elder abuse, plain and simple. Yeah. And if someone was treating my dad this way, even if I was making millions on the side because of where he was, you can't permit it morally. You couldn't permit it. You say, "No, Dad, look, it's over. You had a good run. Let's go to the beach." I mean, it's just so sad. And that picture that we use often of Biden standing like a little boy, getting scolded in the rose garden with his hands down, and Jill with her hands on her hips talking at him. Joe, if you don't stop acting old, I don't know what I'm going to do with you.
I mean, that's one thing. But do you remember when they had to send the Easter Bunny?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, to get him
away from the reporters. The Easter Bunny's physically blocking his access to the reporters.
Yeah. I think the Easter Bunny was a media person, I think, and they were probably talking to him in the ear. Get him away from those people. They're wolves.
Well, you and I talked about it at the time. That's very, I mean, that should be the media should be asking the question, why is the Easter Bunny blocking access of the President of the United States? If the President of the United States wants to talk to a reporter, what business is it of the Easter Bunny?
Well, you can see they've done some interventionist things. First of all, he's now getting on and off Air Force One at the front stairs, which are much shorter.
Yep.
And if he falls down on the long stairs, it'll be inside, out of sight. And it's harder to get a shot of the front stairs. They make sure of that. Now, when an event ends, instead of saying, thank you, everybody, and trying to herd them out of the room, they start playing loud music. So he can pretend he doesn't hear any questions. And that's his signal to try to find the way out.
Yep. By the way, Jonathan Turley has a tweet out this morning. I gotta relate this just to wrap this thing up. We're talking about the polling, about how everybody realizes that Joe Biden is too old for this job, too old and not up for it, right? So that ABC News Ipsos poll showed that 86% of the public now views Biden as too old to serve as president. Jonathan Turley says, and you'll appreciate this, as a point of comparison, only 82% of the public can agree that the earth is round. And he leads to a poll.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
That is the comparison of the day right there from Twitchy, our friends at Twitchy, our sister site. Anyway, Andrew's column is at redstate.com, and it's We Are So Screwed. I think he's actually going to I think you're going to actually rename your column We Are So Screwed, and then you're going to put it,
a number. That's right. Yeah. Right. 1 or I-V. Right.
All right. And of course, and we got to get to the jokes of the week. Do you have a joke of the week?
I got a couple. Did I tell the Ruth Buzzy one?
You did last week, yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, sorry.
There was somebody on Twitter that was tweeting that there's a new trend in office work life, naming your lunch. Because today I had a lunch named Kevin.
Ouch. Ouch.
And let's see. I like this one. These are old, but Jimmy Fallon says, as Super Bowl champs, the Giants will meet President Obama at the White House. Meanwhile, the Patriots will meet Newt Gingrich at the Waffle House. And one other one that I just like because it's Russia. Letterman. He says the Sochi Olympic Hotel is called the Two Seasons. Instead of a little chocolate on your pillow, Russian maids leave a potato.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm Irish, so that's not so bad, I got a quick one for you here. So, and I got this from jokesoftheday.net because I always like to give credit.
Yeah.
A Catholic priest, a Lutheran minister, and an evangelical preacher are arguing about religion one day when the phone rings. And the Catholic priest gets up to answer it. And after listening for a few minutes, his face just turns pasty white. And he goes, yes, I understand. I'll pass on the news. And they said, what's wrong? And the priest says, well, I've got good news and I've got bad news. So, okay, what's the good news? He says, well, my friends, that was the Lord Jesus on the phone, and he's calling to say he's back. And they shout, glory be. What could possibly be bad news now? Well, the priest says he was calling from Salt Lake City. There you go. Salt Lake City. For the win. All right. Also for the win, anytime you get a chance to talk to or read Andrew Malcolm, he's the prince of Twitter, the regent of redstate.com, at AHMalcolm on Twitter. Yes, sir.
Or listen, because we have audio commentary now on Thursdays usually.
That's right. You have your
Malcolm on the Right.
Malcolm on the Right podcast, the 5-minute podcast. So you can listen to Andrew, you can read Andrew, Andrew, and all the fun commentary that he's got right here. on Twitter at AHMalcolm. That's where you find all the links. Andrew, thanks again for another great conversation. We're doing this again next week, right?
Yes, next week, not the week after, but yes.
Not the week after. I have to figure out something else to do with my life. I'm just going to bury myself in sackcloth and ashes for that week. It's just, I think I'm going to entitle that podcast, Without You, We Are So Screwed, the sequel. All right, Andrew, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, everybody.